What up? Hey, welcome back, friends. We are back at it again. Another day in the Bible, another day in the Word of God, another day in the Daily Dose. So, today we have got day number 52. That means we're going to be looking at Psalm number 52. We're also going to be looking at Numbers, chapters 33. I meant to say chapters 35 through 36. So, and again, we're coming up close to the end of Numbers, so you guys are doing great. Let's keep on riding it out. We're almost into Deuteronomy. We do not have any supplemental videos quite yet from our friends at the Bible Project. We'll have some of those as we go into the new book of Deuteronomy here coming up shortly. But for today, y'all just got me, my summary video, and if you click the link below, you've got the link to the PDF that walks you through the Bible reading plan as we read through the scriptures over the course of a year. So let's hit right into the summary today. The summary is, okay, now remember last time where we left off is basically it was talking about how the land was going to be divided out. We had those two tribes that wanted to stay on the east side, I think it was. They wanted to stay on the same side of the Jordan River that they were on and camp out there, set up towns, and have that land. And the rest of the tribes were going to be obtaining land on the other side of the Jordan, which is more into this area of Canaan or the Promised Land. So, all that being said, as with everything else, we have rules or instructions for the Levites that are a little bit different. Okay, so remember, the Levites are the priesthood, the priestly class. They are the family whose lineage is basically to take care of the tabernacle, to represent the people to God, to handle all of the sacrifices and everything else that were priestly duties that we read about in the law. And there's a number of times where we read about the Levites, the priests, being numbered differently in the census and being treated a little bit differently as far as how their tribes are arranged. So we read a little bit more about that here. We read about the towns for the Levites. So what was supposed to happen is basically the 12 tribes are supposed to be giving various towns within their land allotments to the Levites, so that the Levites are going to be kind of sprinkled here and there, but they will have their own little towns within the land of all of the different 12 tribes. Okay, now we find out that again the tribes that were larger, that had more people, more population, more herds, more flocks, they were going to be getting larger sections of land, right, than the tribes that were smaller, because they needed more land than the smaller tribes. So we find out that the 12 tribes in total are supposed to be giving 48 towns to the Levites. So the tribes that have more land are supposed to be giving more towns to the Levites, and the tribes that might have little small pieces of land, they might only give like one or two little towns within their piece of land to the Levites. So these towns, wherever they're located at, we read that the towns are going to have some sort of boundary. They probably set up like little city walls, some sort of boundary markers or lines for these towns. And we're told that 2 cubits in every direction going out was supposed to be for pasture. We also read about these things called cities of refuge. Okay? Cities of refuge. Now, this is kind of like a safe city. It makes me think of a safe house. Like, have you ever watched a movie where somebody ends up turning and becoming an informant for the FBI or something, and like they put him in this safe house, and they give him they change their identity. They give them new documentation, new documents, and they give them a fake identity because now they're in like witness protection, right? That's kind of what I think of when I think about this. But so what these cities of refuge are, first of all, we're told that there's going to be 6 of them. So out of these 48 towns or cities, I'm using the term interchangeably, out of these 48 cities, that the 12 tribes are going to divvy out to the Levites among their land, right? Out of the 48, 6 of those towns are supposed to be cities of refuge, okay? So here's how that plays out. If somebody commits a crime nowadays, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? You might have to go hang out and wait in jail, until the trial happens, just as a way to make sure that you don't escape or run. Or sometimes, depending on the seriousness of the crime, you can just bail out and you can kind of sort of go about living your normal life until the trial happens. But my point here is that you're not sentenced and there's not any kind of judgment executed on you in most cases until you go through trial. At least that's the way it's supposed to be in a perfect world. So in ancient times, we've talked about this before too, there was this kind of mentality that you take an eye for an eye. If somebody kills a family member, then you execute judgment on them by killing them. That was just sort of the way things were back then in those ancient times. And the punishment needed to match or be fit for the crime. It shouldn't be too harsh, right? So the issue is that let's just say that I am accused of killing somebody back then, right? I'm accused of killing some guy. Now, hypothetically speaking, let's just say I didn't do it. It was all a misunderstanding. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and somebody lied about seeing me do something, and I didn't do anything, right? However, let's just say that this person who I supposedly murdered or killed, let's say that that person's brother knows who I am, knows where I am, and he's going to come and get revenge, right? Now, if I am found guilty, then that would be a fitting punishment for the crime, for him to get revenge. But because I have not gone to trial yet and has not been officially established that I am guilty, right? That guy can't be allowed to come and execute his vengeance, his own personal justice on me. So that's what these cities of refuge were for. If somebody was involved in some sort of a crime where it was, going to be, there was going to need to be a trial that was held, or if somebody was potentially killed and I was nearby, but I didn't actually kill them. It was an honest, straight up accident, right? It was not anything that was done on purpose. Sometimes there would be kind of a gray area there, and you'd still have to go to court for people to be able to make their case. So these cities of refuge were kind of like a waiting area where you could go while you were awaiting trial, while you were awaiting a decision to be made, and it was a safe place, basically, just a safe place. Now, the way that this is set up is these 6 towns that I just mentioned. It says that 3 of them were on one side of the Jordan and 3 were on the other side of the Jordan. And that's kind of weird to me because if memory serves, there were only 2 tribes that stayed on that the front side of the Jordan. All the other tribes are going over. So you've got 3 cities within 2 tribes. Then you've got 3 cities over here within all these other tribes. But I'm guessing that they divided it on both sides of the river because the river is a good barrier. So if you lived on one side of the river and you committed a crime, if you stayed in one of the nearby cities of refuge, maybe the person that is out to get you, maybe they could find you. Maybe if you went and crossed the river and went over to a city of refuge on the other side of the river, it would be harder for the relative or family member that was looking to get vengeance to come find you. I don't know, just my thoughts. So we find out what the capital punishment guidelines are for a trial. So it talks about, if somebody killed somebody and they did it on purpose, if somebody, swung at somebody and punched them, and they just punched them so hard it killed them, but they didn't mean to kill them, then, it goes through all of these circumstances and potential incidents that could happen when somebody gets killed. And it talks about, when capital punishment is justified, when it's not. The only other thing that it mentions that's of interest, or at least of note to talk about at the very end, is it says that if the person who is seeking refuge, if they go out of this city of refuge that they're staying in, right? So if I'm accused of murdering somebody, so I go run and I go hide in the city of refuge, okay? If I go outside of the walls of that city, if anything happens to me, it's fair game. That's what it says. So it's kind of like, you sort of are on lockdown, and it kind of is like a safe house from the perspective that, once you're in this town, you kind of have to stay there, until some decision has been made. Because you might say, I'm sick of being locked up inside the gates of this little city. I want to get out. I want to go walk around and explore. I want to go take a hike and go, swim in the creek over on the other side of the hill, or, whatever. If you did that and somebody saw you and killed you, hey, that's on you. You weren't inside the city of refuge, so you had to be really careful. So that's all I got for you guys for today. We are just about out of time. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me, and we will do it again tomorrow. Deuces.